How's it going, everyone? My name is Nick Clement from Access 4 and welcome to MSPland. In today's episode, we sit down with Karen Giles, Managing Director of Syntech IT, to talk about how the industry has changed since she started the business more than a decade ago, as well as the main challenges that she's faced since. We then also get into a bunch of other topics, including how she's balanced being a full-time mother with work, what it's like running an MSP with a husband, as well as a discussion on how SEO has recently been helping to drive a lot of new customer acquisition for Syntech. Let's jump into the episode. Karen, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Good. Yes, thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you very much for coming in. So to begin with, give us a bit of a background spiel on yourself and how you first sort of got into the MSP world.
So MSP World started in 2012. I don't know how far you want me to go back in regards to my computer experience, but growing up in the 80s, my dad always had a computer. We had the Commodore 64 and the Amiga 500 in the house, and we always had the latest and greatest, which I was very lucky to be part of. So computers have always been part of my background. But my husband and I, Robert, we moved to Melbourne in 2008 from Auckland, from New Zealand. And we decided, it kind of happened organically, to start a company.
Yep.
We were really lucky that we weren't in a time when, the cost of living is really high. We were quite lucky. I mean, there's always risks going into business, but we felt at the time we didn't have children. We thought, I've got my full-time position still. So we thought it was time for Robert to step away from what he was doing. And so we formed Syntech IT in 2012.
Okay.
So the plan was for me to work in the company eventually. So I sort of I took more of a role in probably around 2015, 2016.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Yeah.
So the business has been around for a decade now, which is a good amount of time. You would have seen a lot of change during that time. Especially in terms of the MSP segment, where have you seen the most sort of change?
I suppose, so before we started our company, the cloud wasn't around, or it wasn't really a thing. So that's probably one of the biggest changes. And of course, COVID has also changed how we work.
Yes. Yeah.
So those are probably the two biggest changes and things that we've noticed in the business, and how that's changed how we work really as well. Even our team, prior to COVID, we had a team of four. The four of us were in the office. We're working really well together and it was great. And of course, now we all work, I've got someone in Singapore, Queensland, us here. Even we spend more time working from home now than what we ever have before. Yep. So, before COVID, I didn't think it was really possible to really be productive and to get things done. So that's definitely changed.
Has the product mix of what you're actually selling post-COVID also changed as well?
Yes, a little bit. Probably not quite so dramatic as the remote side of things, but yes, a little bit has changed. I suppose our phones, the internet, how we use those, I think we're so much more reliant on the office phone calls coming through our phone and things like that as well. So that's definitely made it easier since. In fact, COVID has changed how we work. It's sped up, I think, the technology and that we're using. Yep.
No, that's good. And talking a bit more about the cloud transition, as you said, so starting back in 2012 when you founded the business to now, what did that transition look like? Was it a big change for your business, but then also how you sold it into your customers as well?
Yes.
What was the typical sort of journey there? Because I guess people were moving from the sort of offline world, the siloed sort of world into a world which is all in the cloud.
Yes.
I mean, businesses are still going through that now, right? Believe it or not. Yeah. So how has that transition sort of happened for your customers?
So we deal a lot with dentists. So that is one of our verticals because Robert has experience with the software development company. They develop the software that a lot of dentists use. So we deal a lot with them. And if you look at how what technology they use, they're still very server. They're still very, their OPG machines, their chairs, it's all very connected, and that trying to get that type of infrastructure into a cloud scenario is going to take a lot longer than someone who's in the accounting field and, their MYOB, their Xero, all of that has been based on the online And so much easier cloud, and they can work from anywhere. Same scenario with architects.
Okay.
We've got architects who are using very big Revit, AutoCAD files. So again, it's still very server based rather than cloud based. That's probably picking up a bit more now. They're able to render in that in the cloud. So I can see that transition from when I started, I worked I worked for an architecture firm when I first moved to Australia, and it's very interesting seeing that timeline from when I started in 2008 to where they are today. And, you know, that is the space of 10, 12 years.
Takes that time.
So it depends on the industry as to how quickly that they can adapt to the changing technology, and whether or not they want to as well. Because we've had conversations about, hey, this is now available. Would you like to do this? But there's that, oh, hang on, I'm not quite ready. I don't know how this is going to go. So there's that really unknown testing phase that just some of them are too busy to sort of try as well. So.
And I'm sure COVID would have put a fire up under a lot of them, right? That's the trigger point for a lot of them, where they realize time to move, because everyone's distributed, no one's in the office. Yeah.
And Autodesk, I think they turned around and put a lot of more things online available for them during COVID so that they could work more remotely. And so it's you look at the laptops that they're using now, you would never use a laptop. You're usually in an architectural environment. Whereas now, you know, half of their fleet is now laptops. So it definitely is changing. So
and I'm interested to talk more about that vertical specialization you guys have. You mentioned dentistry and architecture. So your husband had a background in dentistry. You said you used to work for architecture firm. Is that where a lot of that growth came about? You guys just already had existing experience in those verticals, so that's where your network was, and you were easily able to expand into them?
Yes, absolutely. For Robert, definitely. Like his working for the software company, he made friends with the networked just naturally through his work. And that was great. And so I didn't realize going into having our own business how important that is. That networking, or just we used to have these, it was called Support 12, and we used to go in every week on a Thursday morning at 7 o'clock, and we'd do these business classes for like an hour and a half. And they were great classes to help us build our business and talk about all different things that we needed to think about, as in like a mission, our why, and big, hairy, audacious goals that we're working towards. So for Robert, it was definitely, though, it was working through primary at that stage. It was, we went into this and aimed at dentists because there was a niche in the market. So I think finding that niche of, you know, and knowing what you, or applying what you know. And yes, I have the background of knowing how architects work. So that was great. And Robert obviously had a really, really in-depth knowledge of how dentists work. And so that gives us an edge in those industries for sure.
And then it's this word of mouth from there once you've established that expertise. Is that right? In those early days, the main method that you found to establish new client bases, was it existing network and then word of mouth from there? Is that right?
Definitely. In fact, we're still a lot of word of mouth. And social media, which I'm not big on social media myself. It's a bit of a hole, as in like you can just get lost for ages in social media, obviously. But we were actually included on these dental forums, which we had no idea about, and people were recommending us. And so that was really nice to get that feedback that people have found us that way and they wanted to work with us. So.
But it's also organic, right? Like you're not putting any paid spend into dental forums or anything. You're providing a great service, great product, so then people are naturally referring you in.
And that's absolutely right.
No, good stuff. So, I mean, you mentioned COVID was a challenge, cloud was a challenge, especially when you were scaling your business. Like, what were some other challenges that you ran into? I mean, especially you mentioned in COVID, you have quite a remote staff in Singapore. You mentioned even. What are the challenges that you've seen in running an MSP business?
I think having a business is just challenges just about everywhere you turn. So, but yes, COVID was an interesting one. The challenge of making sure everyone can work remotely from home, making sure that we can all connect. We had people who wanted to work from home, obviously,
Yes.
and have the setup to go with that. We thought we would actually be quite quiet during COVID.
Yep.
And there were a few afternoons there where we were like, oh, okay, this is how it's going to roll. We're quietening down.
Yep.
And then we picked up again. We actually picked up a lot of new clients over COVID.
Okay.
People were spending the time researching and having a look and saying, right, what can I do with my time now that I'm locked up
Yes.
at home?
Yes.
I'm not happy with my IT.
Yep.
How can I, what can I do? Who's available?
Yep.
And so that's when we actually got a lot of leads, a lot of new clients call up and speak to us.
No, that's interesting. And for those sort of customers who are spending a bit more time doing the research and taking a look in, especially during that COVID period, what were the first sort of products and services that they were most interested in and you were initially selling them on? Because, typical business with an MSP, you have a few core products that you capture customers on, and then you'll be cross-selling and upselling from there.
Yes.
During that time, during COVID, those initial customers who you were able to bring on board, what were the products that you were initially selling them on?
So they needed, like a lot of them were laptops.
Yep.
And some of those were very hard to get hold of
Sure.
at the beginning of COVID, but even now supply is still
Yep.
an issue. But
Okay.
probably it started with that side of things. And then better internet.
Okay. Internet,
Obviously that knock-on flow, how can I work remotely? We obviously, being a managed service provider, we have managed services. So it's a lot of people were like, right, I want you to take care of our, please take care of it. Like, they've stopped and they're like, I don't want to go back to managing everything. So we found that was a knock-on, but also migrating sort of Office 365, getting away from their Gmail accounts.
Okay.
And so that was kind of an effect as well from that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Interesting. Cool. All right. So a question I've been interested to ask you especially is how you balance working full-time, running your own business while being a mother.
Yes.
I'm quite new to fatherhood myself, and I already see the challenges every single day, but that's not even running my own business. I'd love to understand a bit more about how you actually balance all of that.
Yes. There's that challenge word again.
Yes.
It's challenging and it's a juggle. So our kids now are 5 and 9. So it's nice to have them both at school.
Yep.
That has its pros and cons though too, because the hours between 9:30 and 3 o'clock are the shortest time. So,
until you get that phone call, yes.
I got that phone call on Friday actually from yes as well. Yeah, snotty noses, which is the time of year, of course. Yes. So look, it is a constant juggle and battle, but it's something that I'm really lucky with Robert. Like, I have a partner who we share a lot of that as well. Robert's a lot more in the business though as well. So I think having your own business, one of the things that I loved about it was the flexibility.
Yep. Okay.
And so that gives me the flexibility when I get a phone call, I can go and pick up my child, or flexibility in that I can work at different hours I can get up early.
Yes.
Sometimes. 4:30 in the morning when I can't sleep. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to do what I'm worried about and pick up the laptop and do it. I suppose that's also a challenge with business as well, as the switching off. I think, again, going back to COVID, when we still stopped in 2020, it was kind of that breather.
Yeah.
And when we were in lockdown, people were like, I'm not spending an hour or 2 hours a day traveling.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to put that into my work.
Exactly right.
And we as employees, I loved it. And we were all really, it was great. And I feel like there was more balance in 2020 than there is now in 2023.
Okay.
I feel like now it's the lines are a little bit more blurred.
Yep.
We were working this extra couple of hours, but after 2 years of all that putting in the extra time, there's a lot of burnout.
Yeah, a lot of burnout. People needing some breaks. That sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, being a mum, juggling. So, we say we have our work children, and then we have our children.
Yeah.
So that's a balance too. Running a business. You've got the employees, and you have your team, and then I have our children. So you really have to step back, take a breath.
Yep.
And I'm really lucky where we live. I have beautiful forest walks where I am. So it really is making sure that you detach from all of that as well and do something for yourself. Okay. So. Look, most days are hectic and busy, but we're in a routine that works though too.
Yep.
But yes, we also do talk to our children now that they've gotten to the age, that sort of ages where it's like, hey, you can help mummy and daddy.
Yeah, exactly
things.
right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Cool.
So, yeah, but it's always going to be a work and a juggle. And yeah.
So drawing on from that, you mentioned Robert a few times.
Yes.
He's your husband. You're running a business with your spouse.
I am.
Like, how do you balance that? Because I know, you know, you hear a lot of advice people say, you know, never start a business with your partner because it's hard to disconnect the work from the personal life. There's gray lines between that. There's decision-making dilemmas that you might come up against, but you've done it successfully because you've ran a business for over a decade. So, like, how did you do it?
Yes.
That's what I want to know.
Look, I definitely think it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
I don't know that it would work for everyone. I don't want to say that Robert and I are unique. I like to think that there definitely are a lot of partners and you know, married couples that can make it work. Robert and I, my dad had a computer shop when I was growing up, when I was a teenager, and Robert actually worked part-time in my dad's business, and so did I. So we had a little bit of working relationship prior to a, you know, more personal romantic relationship. So we've had a really long history of working together. Robert and I have things that we are definitely a bit geeky and nerdy. I don't think I'd be with Robert otherwise because he's a bit of a gamer, and I must admit I like it myself. So we've got things that we have in common, and we love doing together. We love going to the gym together. We love, you know, playing some StarCraft 2 together, things like that. But we also have our things that we like doing aside from that as well. Our own things, like my own friend base, my own books that I love reading. And he's got his online trip that he plays with all the games that I don't want to. So we have our together stuff and we have our separate stuff. And we also have like the business that we're working together towards. We have a lot in common with the business side of things though too. So Robert's very easygoing, which I think is probably definitely one of the helps in that respect as well. But we have just proven to work well together. We're also not in each other's faces all the time either. So often I'll be out and about running some meetings or doing a few things, and he'll be on site or he'll be working. So we're not in, you know, like in each other's faces all the time. So I think that I wouldn't want that for him, or for me. We've got that dynamic that works.
So on the work side of things, how do you divide what he works on and what you work on? Is there a clear differentiation there?
So Robert's definitely more, well, I say more on the tools, although we're trying to get him off the tools. I think when you have your own business, you're wearing so many hats. And so Robert has his hats and I have my hats, and there's definitely a few where it's like, look, we're having a meeting, you know, let's do this one together because we both need to be across all of this. But Robert's definitely more on the tools, whereas I step back from that just before having children. So I'm more of the behind the scenes, more the admin side
business
of things.
Operations.
Business, yes. And do you know what? I love business and I love learning about business, like the E-Myth, reading books like that, and applying successful principles to the business. So that's really what I want to be doing, is learning, because I think you can't be in business these days without constantly upskilling and learning and, you know, pulling from people who know what they're doing and have done it longer. So Robert's, we like to do that together. Definitely the last few years have made that hard. You know, you're working in the business instead of on the business. But working on the business, it's so important, and it's really exciting doing that together with the person that, you know, I've spent my life with and that we want to spend our lives with, you know, this common goal that we're working towards. So
he's the geek on the tools and you're the one running everything else.
Exactly right. I'm like, his time management needs some work. I got to step in there.
Fill in those timesheets.
I know, right? Yes, definitely. So, yes. So it is a little bit like that sometimes, but it's quite good. We've got a relationship where he doesn't get grumpy at me when I'm like, hey, come on, I need that time sheet.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
I need that ticket completed, please.
And I'm sure just like open transparency and communication is the most important thing.
Absolutely. And we said that from day, I said that to him from day one. I'm like, as long as we've got an open communication then about anything, then we can make anything work.
Cool. No, that's good. That's good. I think, as you said, it's not going to be for everyone.
No.
And I think a lot of people have probably tried it and failed. And it's just difficult to pull those things together. But I think, as you said, as long as you're communicating, you're very transparent, and there's probably a clear divide between what you both are working on. and a clear sort of crossover, then it's going to work.
Yeah, exactly. And look, we've had some time, especially recently, the last couple of years have been obviously a bit crazy. But over Easter this year, like we went back to New Zealand and we're like, right, we've got 4 days.
Yep.
We are not discussing work or anything to do with work, not a thing. And it was nice to disconnect from that.
Yeah.
Because one of the best things about having your own business is that flexibility, but you can also be lying in bed about to go to sleep and it's like, oh my gosh, have you done this?
Yeah.
You know, so that again, those lines can be really blurred.
Yeah.
With
I
work
think
and personal.
exactly right. And I think that goes back to as well, like having that break after COVID.
Yeah.
And I think so many people still need to have that time off to just disconnect and not think about work. And I think especially with remote work, you know, some people just keep working and working and it's 7 o'clock at night, you have a pick of your laptop because your workstation's right there. But yeah,
it is. And look, I must admit last week, the week before, it was like 9 o'clock nights. And I'm like, gosh, you know, like it's hard.
It's hard, yes.
Yeah, it can be really hard. And so some weeks are like that and other times it's like, look, you know what? Robert's Nana's coming across from New Zealand. We're going to take a week in August and we just schedule that. And I mean, a lot of people, you know, can struggle with work or with their jobs being able to do that. So, yes.
How does that flow down to the team that you have? So you mentioned you're a team of 4 right now?
So we were a 4. We've got, we're a team of 6.
6, okay.
Yes.
So how is it structured? So you have yourself and Robert, and is that the rest made up of techs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, techs. And we've got a couple of contractors as well that we utilise. One in New Zealand. We also have our New Zealand branch.
Okay.
Which is going really well. And then we've got a contractor up in Queensland because Queensland seems to be quite a growing region for us. We're getting a lot of leads through the website that are coming up from Queensland. Yeah, so
okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So both in Australia and New Zealand. New Zealand, is that a more recent development having someone over there?
Yes. So we brought someone on at the end of 2021. So we've kind of kicked things off last year.
Yep.
It's a different market. We're expecting it to be more like a little bit more like Australia because the Kiwis we're pretty onto it people, right? Like pretty savvy. But I must admit it is quite a different market. Okay. So yes, so that's just an ever evolving situation. But at the moment, probably most of our time is spent at the moment just focusing on the Australian branch and just we're working on the New Zealand
growing the New Zealand one.
Yeah.
So what's your plan for New Zealand? Because I know when you're expanding to into a new country, it's a new market. You have to try and understand that market. How have you sort of approached that? Do you have a different way that you're going to market, a different way that you're looking to develop business?
Yes.
Because you mentioned the markets were a bit more different than you thought.
They are different. So one of the things that we found between Australia and New Zealand, so Australia seemed to be like they don't mind a monthly bill. They don't mind the managed services quite so much.
Okay.
They don't mind the backup. You know, like a monthly, a couple of $100 a month for the backup. But in New Zealand, we've found going to market with that managed services planned, they don't want to spend that monthly. They'd rather pay for it up front.
So they're a bit more cost conscious and they'd rather pay for the one-off fees rather than the recurring?
Yes, which we weren't really expecting. And when you look at the managed services side of things, like the packages that we sell here, a lot of the Kiwis are like, well, that's too much a month to spend. So we've had to kind of adjust how we sell to that market. But in saying that, we didn't go into New Zealand just because, hey, let's go into New Zealand and I want to claim all my flights back to home. But we've got one of the partners that we work with here is also in New Zealand. So that gives us, we can support them in New Zealand as well as here in Australia. So it was a logical next business step for us. To move into New Zealand to support them on that side as well.
Cool. So onto the next part of the show. I just wanted to have a chat about the industry that we're in and specifically how traditionally it's been quite male dominated. So I would love to get your opinion on, you know, what it's like to be a woman in this business, in this industry where it is very male dominated, as I mentioned. What are the challenges that you face and what's the advice that you would give to other women?
Yes. So on my team, there's myself, but I also have a female technician.
Okay. And
so it's really nice to have that female companion in the office, you know, or that we can communicate with to talk about, you know, it's nice having having someone to talk about these things with. We have come across, I suppose it's a little bit like a mechanic on the car. There's some people that wouldn't want a female mechanic working on their car, and so that translates a little bit into the computer side of things as well.
Okay.
We don't come up across it much, which is really good. And myself personally, in the business, there's so many amazing women running businesses in the networking groups, and that I don't feel any what's the word I'm looking for, any feelings that I'm not where I'm supposed to be, or that, you know, females shouldn't be a part of this. So like I said, look, we don't really come up across it quite a lot. I think though that in some corporate or some other companies, I think, you know, speaking to my team member, they've seen it a lot in a lot of corporate environments. It does feel like that's shifting though. There's a shift happening within the industry, as well as just generally speaking for females in leadership roles, in IT roles. And all I can say is, you know, to any female that's wanting to work in these industries, to go for it. There's nothing that we can't do that, you know, that
exactly right.
We absolutely, anything we put our minds to, anything you want to accomplish, we can accomplish. So, and I think it's about finding the right company as well. Like if you are struggling, like there are plenty of companies out there that I'm sure, like I like to think that our culture is very supportive of really any ethnical, cultural, but also, you know, female, male positions. So.
Okay, no, that's good. How important is culture to your business? I mean, I think as you said, right, like you need to find businesses with the right culture. There's going to be plenty out there that don't put any focus on culture whatsoever. And I think at the end you see they're the ones that stagnate first. So how do you sort of foster that sort of culture in your business?
So I worked for a company in New Zealand, and there was no culture. And I didn't enjoy going to work every day. And one of the things that Robert and I did, as I mentioned, we were doing these networking classes, you know, and it was learning about, you know, your mission and things like that. And culture, obviously, your team was part of that. And Robert and I have always been on the same page of, I never want one of my team to not want to come to work, to not want to feel uncomfortable, unhappy at their workplace. Like, I mean, it's not okay, you know? And so I don't like Robert and I, you know, even though I hate the word bosses, I really don't like it. You know, we don't I don't want to dictate to my team. Like we're a team. Let's work together as a team. And so that's a culture that we are very passionate about. But also have a bit of fun. Like life is too short to be in a job or to be not happy. It's way too short, and you spend just as much time with the people that at work as you do just about with people
with your
at
own
home,
family,
right?
Even, right?
So why would you not want to find the best people to hang out with?
Exactly.
And to have fun with. Like I think that fun aspect with business is really, it can be lost. I think again that there's a lot of companies, you know, like your Googles and like with these shared office spaces, you know, making things a bit more fun, but more breakout spaces and things like that, where that's great. And so we're in that kind of shared office environment as well, where they have lunches, you know, and you can go and have a lunch and meet some of the other tenants that are in the building. There's free work lunches where you can go and learn about a topic about Google AdWords and things like that. I think that's really important too, is making sure that you've got an overall, you know, not so much well-being, but an environment where your team are really comfortable. And
no, that's good. And as I said, right, you work to have a life. Like life shouldn't be work, right? And I think that's very important, because at the end of the day, if people aren't having fun, if they're not feeling passionate about what they're doing, they're not going to be as productive. They're not going to care about what they're doing, and you're not going to see anything from them. So
exactly.
Cool. So I'd love to just change track a bit and talk a bit about your business and how you're growing it. So you mentioned word of mouth is very important. So referrals is a big channel for you. Other than those channels, what are some other ways that you're actually going out there and generating new business?
So we tried, this was quite a few years ago now, we tried doing some mail outs, some real outs. We also tried outsourcing to a company who was cold calling.
Yep. Okay.
And so those were kind of tests to see, what kind of results we got back from that. And we really didn't get much back from that. Our referrals and word of mouth was much, much better.
Yes.
But you don't know until you try these things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Our website, we rank really well for computer leasing.
Okay.
And we organically, without even trying, actually are ranking in Australia #1 for computer leasing.
Okay.
And we looked at that and we brought on an amazing SEO person. I think that's so important to find someone who you really trust and, like someone that you can work with really closely on that. And so we've built this website, like he's really gotten in there and done some amazing things within it. And we are just ranking so well in, MSP Melbourne and those sorts of different words as well. So the leads that are coming through the website have they have flourished since November last year. We're getting really, really good traction through the website.
That's good.
And so I think that that's a really, really big, big one to get into your website, learn more about that side of things.
Yep.
If you're not too sure about that side of things, definitely hire some because, hire someone who specializes in that. It is really important. Like I said, too many hats, in the beginning when you start a business, you're doing all these things yourself because you're trying to save money. But if you want to grow, that is definitely one of the things. The website has been huge.
And SEO as well can get terribly complicated very quickly if you don't really have that background in it. But it's good to hear that's a good channel for you, right? It's just showing that customers out there are doing the research, doing the searching to understand what kind of businesses they should work with. And when you're ranking highly, when you're on the first page, if not at the top of Google, that's where you're going to see a lot of strong return.
That's right. Exactly. I mean, like who isn't online these days?
Who
doesn't even if I'm looking up a restaurant or accommodation, like that's the first thing I'm looking at. Are they online? What are their photos like? Because a lot of the photos of some of these the hotels and things like they're blurry pictures, and I'm like,
the stock images of the same person over and over again.
I'm like, I am basing my decision off these. Right. The reviews on the, so people do look. That's what they're doing. So. And
I've seen some terrible websites in this industry as well. Not to insult anyone out there, but it's like it's your website is your storefront essentially, right? Like people judge your book by its cover to use that expression, right?
No, absolutely. In fact, someone was, I can't remember what, might actually been Robert's brother who's looking at selling honey in New Zealand, and he was looking at labels. And so I was helping him with that, and it's kind of like all the candles that you see these days, right? Like you can see a row of candles. Like, well, which one am I going to choose? You're literally looking at the label. Like if they all look the same, you're looking at the presentation of how they are. And that's the same thing with your website because that's how they're judging your business. So look, we've still got heaps more to do with the website, and it's just that forever. Same with the business. It's like learning and applying and changing and adapting.
Yeah, exactly right.
So,
seeing what works.
Thing.
You need to spend a bit of money, put in a bit of time to understand where you get the return. And then just iterate. I'm sure you guys started with a certain number of keywords that you were focusing from a search perspective, and then you're going to expand upon that more and more, and then just increase your focus from there.
And that's the thing with the leasing. We didn't realize we were even tracking really well with that. And so when we found out that, it's like, right, well, let's go with this as well. How can we maximize this? So yes, it does. It takes some research, it takes some time. But it's worth obviously looking into your strengths as well. So I like to think that we as Syntech IT, we differentiate ourselves from our competition because of our niche, what we know, what we specialize in, what we offer as well. So I think looking at that and marketing that, how are you different, like we like our team. So our Syntech team, I want our team to feel like an extension of our clients, right? So when our clients, they call up, they have a great relationship with our team. I can have a chat about, what's not working, but also, how's so-and-so in the business? How are your kids?
It's more personal.
Yes.
It's humanizing it, right? And I think that's important on your website as well as in your day-to-day when you see stock photos versus real-life people who you're actually going to be working with. it completely changes it.
Yeah. And do you know what? We are human. So,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly right.
so it really is just showing that side, you know, like we want to be transparent. We want to be that bit of fun. We want to be, you know, like we want to help. We know what we're doing though too. We show you that we know what we're doing and we can fix the problems that you have. So yeah, it's offering that whole package.
And it just makes the whole customer journey easy as well, right? Like you talk about your vertical specialization. When a dentist is looking for MSP, they come across your website. They're going to know exactly where to go, exactly what sort of resonates the most with them, because you understand what they want and what they need, and you can talk to that. You can market it. Absolutely. You can make sure it's ranking on search. You can make sure you have all the relevant content on there. So as soon as they come across it, they're going to be hitting that contact us button soon enough. Yeah,
100%. And I think like in an architecture's situation or in a dental perspective, if that was my business, if I was running a dental practice, I would want someone who knows dental IT. Exactly. And there's a lot, and I'm sure this is industry specific, you know, like industry wide. You know, I think that businesses should be looking at someone who does that specific type, because they can offer more. Offer better and faster, like too.
Yeah, exactly. Because they already know that business, what the challenges you're going to face, what the hurdles, they already know how to overcome.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think like differentiation is just so important, because you're selling managed services. There's a whole lot of IT managed service providers out there also selling managed services. So how do you differentiate yourself from the MSP next door who's trying to go after the same customer?
Absolutely. That's exactly right. So.
All right, good stuff. So just to wrap it up, love to just hear your thoughts a bit about what's coming up in the future. So 5 to 10 years from now, in terms of what MSPs are looking at, what do you see coming up, and how do you think MSP should be preparing for these potential changes?
Yes. Well, it's amazing. Like if someone had told me what the last 10 years were going to be.
You wouldn't know.
No, need that crystal ball.
Yeah.
Look, I think the remote working from home, the workspaces, like the open co-working spaces, they're not going anywhere. I think that's the way that we're going to be continuing. Cloud, you know, trying to get, you know, file sizes are getting larger, so scaling, that sort of side of things. I think that MSPs need to make sure that they can pivot. We're pretty good at adapting, or I like to think that people in tech, I mean, if you've, you know, got a tech company, you should be used to and I think COVID's really done that for everyone. It's really, we've all had to adapt. We've all had to change. So with IT, I think we're naturally pretty good at that anyway, but there is the pivoting away from servers and that hardware on site to more remote, all that remote access and working from anywhere.
Any device, anywhere, anytime.
Exactly right. And so something that we've done at Syntech, we know that that's coming. At the moment, obviously, we're dealing with a lot of dentists still who still need that, but we can see it in all the other industries that we work with, that they are that it's faster, that moving away from it. And so we've added things like Access 4s, you know, the telecommunication side of things. We want to be one-stop shop, so that we have all these other, you know, income streams, not just from the hardware sort of sales. So it's that pivot away from what else can I offer? What else am I good at? What is, you know, so that's what I think MSPs need to look at, you know, what else can I bring? You know, what else can I learn? What else can we apply? How can we pivot?
Okay, great. All right, well, I think we can wrap it up from there. Thanks a lot for coming on today. A lot of good insight there, so really appreciate your time. For anyone out there who might want to get in touch with you, what's the best way that they can reach out?
Probably just through the website. Probably, really good. And we're happy to have a chat. It's always nice to grab hot chocolate with someone. Not a coffee drinker.
Not a coffee drinker.
I know someone said, I know that was just about a deal breaker. If you want to buy me a hot chocolate,
Stop recording.
Still trustworthy person, obviously, even though I drink hot chocolate. Yes. So, but no, anytime, have a chat. And I think that you reach a point with a business where you can start to give back, you know, and you have a bit of knowledge. And so I like to think we're probably within the 5-year mark of that, but happy to have a conversation with anyone.
Good stuff. All right, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks.